Please help me to reach 500 subscribers. If you enjoy the stories on my channel, please consider subscribing. Your support keeps this content going and I truly appreciate it. Now let's begin today's story. The moment I stepped inside, it felt like I'd walked straight into a romantic film. Candlelight lined the hallway, their flames dancing softly against the walls. Fresh red roses, clearly expensive, were scattered across the floor, guiding me toward the dining area. Gentle music drifted through the apartment, and the air was heavy with vanilla and floral perfume. For a brief second I smiled. I was drained from work, and this was the kind of surprise I'd always secretly hoped for. Then I noticed the envelope. It sat perfectly centered on the dining table beside a champagne flute and a carefully folded napkin. A single rose rested on top, along with a handwritten note. I recognized his handwriting immediately. For when you're finished smiling. My smile vanished. My heart began pounding, not with excitement but with dread. Slowly I picked up the envelope, my hands trembling. Inside wasn't a letter. It was a thick stack of papers stapled together. The first page stole the air from my lungs. A printed screenshot. One of my messages. Sent to someone who was not my boyfriend. My knees weakened as I collapsed into the chair. Page after page followed, every flirtatious message, every inappropriate photo, every line that left no room for misunderstanding. Everything was there. Printed, sorted, even highlighted. I couldn't breathe. The cruel irony was that the affair, if I could even call it that, had ended 2 months earlier. It had been reckless and thoughtless. A friend of a friend I met at a bachelorette party. One drunk night turned into 2 weeks of texting and, eventually, one unforgivable mistake. I'd ended it once fear set in. I convinced myself I'd handled it responsibly. I told myself that if Parker never found out, nothing was truly broken. But Parker knew. The door behind me clicked shut. I turned to see him standing in the hallway, arms folded, expression unreadable. No shouting. No tears. Just silence. If you're going to lie to me every day, he said evenly, gesturing toward the candles and roses, you might as well walk through a lie too. Parker. My voice cracked. No, he cut in. Don't. I've read it all. I know the dates better than you do. I glanced back down at the papers, hoping, ridiculously, that maybe it looked worse than it was. It didn't. Every word felt like a strike to the chest. He walked over and lifted the champagne glass. I was planning to propose this month, he said quietly. The ring's been in my drawer for 3 weeks. That shattered me. I ended it, I whispered. It meant nothing. It was just messages and sex, he interrupted coldly. You slept with him twice. I froze. I read everything, he repeated. And you lied to me for months. There was nothing left to say. I had already destroyed my own defense. He set the glass down untouched. You know what hurts the most? He asked. Not the cheating. Not even the lying. It's that you became someone else behind my back. Someone I never knew. Shame burned my skin. Guilt twisted in my chest. And buried deep beneath it was a selfish spark of anger. Anger that he'd printed everything, that he'd turned it into something so final. How long have you known? I asked softly. Long enough, he replied. I saw the first message 3 weeks ago. You left your iPad unlocked while you were showering. I remembered that day. I remembered laughing under the water, thinking how lucky I was to have him. I wanted to believe it was nothing, he continued. That you were drunk. That someone else had your account. But it kept going. Tears streamed down my face unchecked. I was stupid, I sobbed. I ruined everything. But I love you. I always have. He studied me for a long moment. That's the problem, he said. You think love makes betrayal acceptable. I stood, desperate to reach him, but he stepped back. Please, I begged. I'll do therapy. I'll cut everyone off. Oh. I'm not here to bargain, he said, his voice tightening. I wanted to see the moment you realized it was over. The words hit like ice, sharp and paralyzing. You didn't even give me a chance to explain. I gave you 2 months to tell the truth, he snapped. You chose not to. He walked to the door and opened it. I packed a bag. I'm staying with my brother. You have the weekend to figure out your next move. This place is yours now. That was Parker, calm, logical, even in devastation. I followed him, choking on regret. I never wanted to lose you. Then you shouldn't have risked me, he said. And then he was gone. I collapsed onto the floor, surrounded by dying candles and wilting roses, clutching the pages that exposed a version of myself I barely recognized. The silence afterward wasn't peaceful, it was crushing. The days that followed blurred together. I stayed in the apartment, staring at my phone, waiting for anything, a text, a call, a sign. Nothing came. I wrote letters I never sent. I went to his brother's place once, but the door stayed closed. Eventually, I stopped trying. A week later, a package arrived. No return address. Just a small white box. Inside was the engagement ring. Simple. Elegant. Perfect. Along with a note. You were worth forever. You just didn't believe I was. That was the last I ever heard from Parker. I've replayed the truth endlessly since then. That it wasn't worth it. That the thrill, the attention, the 2 reckless nights weren't worth destroying something real. But realization doesn't reverse damage. Now, whenever I see candles, I think of that night, not for the romance but for the precise, devastating way Parker showed me exactly who I had become. Someone who didn't deserve him. Please help me to reach 500 subscribers.